Hello everyone, welcome back to Believers Science Academy, Bengaluru. This is topic of today. Today we are discussing about recent terror events which happened and some of them didn't happen. So we'll discuss, is India under threat? The doctors of death and new phase of urban terrorism. Okay, we'll discuss who are these doctors of death and why is it so significant and is India really under threat? Okay, so the context is rise of new age terrorism. What is this new age terrorism? In the recent weeks, India has seen spike in the terror incidents and foiled plots. Okay, for example, in the terror incidents, the Delhi attack or Delhi blast, if it is a terror incident, and in the foiled plots, the Ricin attack or the chemical terrorism attack that was planned in Gujarat has been foiled by the Indian intelligence agencies, which were seen across multiple states like Gujarat, Delhi NCR, and Jammu and Kashmir, as well as West Bengal. Next, educated operatives. This is our point of concern. Previously, the terror attacks used to be carried out by trained soldiers across the borders. They used to be smuggled into the borders of India, or they were trained in Indian borders areas, and then they were sent into Indian states to carry out the attacks. But what is happening here is Indian individuals who are not just uneducated or any some person who has some sufferings, but this time the educated individuals are being part of these kind of terror attacks. So the emergence of educated professionals, particularly the doctors as operatives, has shocked the entire establishments. Okay, previously there was a notion that lack of education was resulting into terrorism. That was a notion previously, but what is happening now? The terrorism and education are having a direct proportion. That is, the more educated you are, the higher terrorist attacks you are able to carry out. That is what is happening in India at the moment. Next, alarming trend. That is, these incidents highlight new age terrorisms such as urban, tech-savvy, and ideologically transnational. Okay, so this new age terrorism is very tech-savvy. Most of the training is carried out by the technology, and they are choosing not the military establishments this time. They are choosing the establishments where the civilians are focused on, such as urban sectors. Okay, and then ideologically transnational. That is, previously the main ideology for them to carry out the terror attacks was to demand a separate state, such as Jammu and Kashmir, to demand separate things or their notions, such as Naxalism or in northeastern India. But now what is happening is the main idea behind terror attack is transnational because their head is somewhere else, such as ISKP in Afghanistan or Jaish-e-Mohammed in Pakistan, but they are carrying out the attacks in India on the basis of jihad. Okay, so the ideology is also changing. Next, the chain of incidents. So we'll discuss what are the recent change of incidents or the chain of incidents which happened in just 2 days. Okay, first in the part 1, Faridabad model, doctors of death. That is, there was a joint police operation, unearthed 360 kg explosive cache in a flat disguised as a medical supply unit. So previously we used to talk about lone wolves. What are these lone wolves? An individual who is not connected to any major terrorist groups used to carry out the attacks by himself. Now there is a concept of lone shells or lone shells. Okay, what is happening here is a single small buildings are taken to carry out all these operations. Okay, previously there was a big buildings and training was given offline model and everything was carried out by different training models. But now what is happening here is the training is done through online model and small rooms across different areas are used as for manufacturing these explosives. Okay, next key accused is Dr. Adil Ahmad Rathar and Dr. Muzammil Shakil, who is MBBS graduates who are linked to ISKP handlers. What is this ISKP? ISKP is ISIS Khorasan Province. ISIS Khorasan Province handlers. So they have connections with ISIS. Next, the Gujarat Ricin plot. So what happened here is 2 men who were radicalized by ISKP online experimented with Ricin, which is a deadly toxic, a deadly venom. Just a milligram of this Ricin is able to kill an individual with just 1 hour or not to 2 hours. So they had around 4 liters of castor oil, which is very essential in synthesizing Ricin toxin. Okay, and then significance was so a deadly toxin, and their planning was to poison the food and water. And in the documents which was seized by the officers or the police, they found out that main aim was to poison the food and water in the major temple areas around the NCR region. Okay, it is also religiously motivated. And the significance is it is India's first bioterror attempt inspired by ISKF toxic jihad strategy. ISKP have already used this toxic jihad strategy in Afghanistan, and now they are exporting this idea into India. Okay, next, legal provisions included here include UAPA, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, Arms Act 1959, and Explosives Act of 1884. Next, the day 2, the chain of incidents in part 2. It is a Delhi Red Fort car blast. Yesterday, around 6:52 p.m., there was a car blast in Delhi near the famous Red Fort. A high intensity explosion in a parked vehicle outside Red Fort killed 9 and injured 20 people. This attack bore signature of ISKP linked network, possibly in retaliation for the recent crackdowns. Okay, so it is like a retaliation for the recent crackdowns which happened in Gujarat as well as Delhi. Next, materials assembled, those seized in the Faridabad, indicated a connect between networks. NIA and NSG took over the probe. National Special Force Commandos and NIA, okay, National Investigative Agency, has taken up this particular probe. So there is a connection between these Delhi handlers or Delhi plot as well as Gujarat, and also as well as this Jammu and Kashmir. And next, there was a Jammu and Kashmir foiled blast attempt. Here, police intercepted a vehicle carrying 100 kg of explosives in Pulwama, preventing a major strike. It was almost 2,900 kg of explosives which was found out in Jammu and Kashmir. Suspected hybrid cell linked to Jaish-e-Mohammed and ISKP influence, with the communication traced to Pakistan and Afghanistan. The previous attempts were linked with ISKP, now it is linked with Jaish-e-Mohammed. This Jaish-e-Mohammed is responsible for the famous or infamous Pulwama attack, the deadliest terror attack in the recent years, Pulwama attack. So again, see the connection here. This Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India corridor. So all the terror groups that are present in Afghanistan and Pakistan are training soldiers both offline as well as online, and then they are sending this terror into India. Okay, so India is at the crossroads at the moment. Next, emerging trends in new age terrorism. So as I told you, this terrorism is not like the conventional terrorism. It is very new age. It is very hybrid. So first is educated radicalism, that is recruitment of professionals such as doctors, engineers under the intellectual jihad narratives. This particular change of narratives in the jihad, intellectual jihad, is very significant and is very dangerous for India. Next, digital indoctrination, that is use of encrypted apps such as Telegram, Threema for communication and ideological grooming. So this is where the indoctrination of the terrorists happens. Indoctrination of the terrorist happens in this particular case. Next, urban embedding, that is cells set up in peripheral metro areas such as Faridabad, Ahmedabad to avoid scrutiny. That is majorly the national capital region, the central Delhi, is highly under high surveillance because of the presence of all the government officials, etc., etc. The high surveillance is very high in central Delhi. But these surrounding areas, that is around the NCR region, like Faridabad and Ahmedabad, they are not subjected to strict surveillance. So, in order to escape the scrutiny of central Delhi, these terror organizations are finding foot in Faridabad and Ahmedabad. Next, tech and chemical proficiency. Use of Ricin, precursor chemicals, and advanced IED circuitry reflecting scientific expertise. So all the seizures which happened in these three cases was that they didn't find the exact IEDs, they didn't find Ricin. What they found was the raw materials necessary for establishing or manufacturing these things. In case of Ricin, they found castor oil of 4 liter, and in terms of IED, they found ammonium nitrate and timers, rifles, etc., etc. So you can see here, previously the finished materials were used for waging the war. Now what is happening here is, not only are they being trained to carry out terror attacks, they are also trained to manufacture these explosives, to manufacture these chemicals. Okay, this is very significant. If a person sitting in Afghanistan or Pakistan is able to train a person in India, such as Hyderabad, Kerala, Jammu and Kashmir, or West Bengal, or Delhi, then it is very difficult. Many people can be influenced by this ideology, and this can soon turn out to be very dangerous for India. Next, financial innovations. Previously, the funding used to happen through counterfeit currency or halal funds. Now, the financing is also using the technology through cryptocurrency wallets, hawala routes to evade connection. Okay, and also one of the dangerous thing of this particular events, recent events, is that the role of doctors in this Jammu and Kashmir case. The doctor, major person doctor, he was also the professor of Faridabad University, professor, and one of his student was also involved in this particular incident. And another person, major person, was a Molvi. Okay, a Molvi who is a religious head. Okay, what happens here is doctor who is an intellectual head. Next, Molvi who is a religious head. The people following this doctor or the intellectual or the professors, they think that if my professor, if my doctor is ready to wage a war for jihad, they think that he might be doing something right. They think that he has certain genuine concerns. They think that it is the right thing to do, and they get influenced by this particular professor. Next, people who follow a religious head, if they think that a religious head is spreading the pamphlets with fabricated messages of Quran, fabricated messages of various religious texts, if they think that a religious head such a stature is ready to commit jihad, they think that this might be the right option. They think that he might have certain genuine grievances. They think that whatever he is doing must be right, and they get influenced and they start involving in terror attacks. This is what was observed in particular Jammu and Kashmir and Delhi terror ploy. Next, broader security implications. First is with respect to the shift to urban and tech-savvy terrorism creates significant vulnerabilities. That is metropolitan vulnerability. What happens in metropolitan cities? The population is very dense and soft target exposures in NCR and other metros. Soft target exposures such as all the tourist places, very important tourist places like Red Fort or Parliament Building. So if you consider Bangalore, then Vidhana Sauda. If you consider Mysore, then any tourist like tourist things such as Palace. These are being used as a targets so that it brings more fear among the people. Next, interstate intelligence gaps. There is a need for real-time coordination among the police and intelligence agencies. But in this particular case, especially in Jammu and Kashmir and Delhi 2900 kg bust, there was a coordination between Haryana, Jammu and Kashmir, Delhi plus intelligence agencies. This is to be followed on a regular basis. Next, chemical regulation flaws. That is illicit diversion of chemicals like ammonium nitrate and castor oil continues despite the rules. Okay, castor oil and the ricin production. Ricin is illegal. Ricin is banned throughout the world. But the castor oil is a main ingredient in food things. They are using this castor oil to synthesize. Ammonium nitrate, which is a major contributor for fertilizers, also has negatives such as making IEDs. So, in the name of purchasing them for fertilizers, they are misused for this creation of bomb blast. Okay. Cyber policing deficit. Lack of deep surveillance over encrypted platforms used by the transnational terror outfits as well. So what happens here is there is always a gap. The way technology increases and the laws or the regulations that cover these technologies, there is always a gap. This lag is always there. What is happening here is these terror organizations are exploiting this particular gap. By the time technology is used for negative things, in order to find a positive or the counter for these things, they have already moved on to another technology. That is what is happening in this particular case. Next, legal framework involved here is, I already explained in the previous videos. First is Unlawful Activities Prevention Act of 1967 and Explosive Acts, and then Arms Act of 1959 and IP sections, or for now it is BNS sections, which discusses about terrorism, which discusses about carrying illegal arms, which discusses about carrying illegal chemical weapons. Okay. Next, the Information Technology Act 2000 is also likely to be invoked for encrypted digital communications. So all these laws are there. Okay, you can say so many multiplicity of laws are there, but the problem is they are not properly implemented, and the problem is like getting hold of these terrorists and getting hold of these terrorists before they commit an attack. Next, implications for national security. What does this mean for India? Is India under threat? Yes, obviously, definitely is India is under threat. So what should be the national security implications be? First is strategic pressure points. India's global profile makes it a symbolic target for ISKP and affiliates. Okay, so if they are able to attack India, they feel that we can attack anyone else. So it provides a symbolic target for other terror organizations. Next, urban radicalization. That is, traditional de-radicalization models fail to address educated recruits. Okay, normally traditional de-radicalization focus on people who are not educated or who are uneducated. There was a notion that uneducated people, because of lack of literacy, lack of education, they get influenced by these doctrination models, or they get influenced by this radicalism very easily. So the de-radicalization models focus mainly on the uneducated people. But what is happening in this case? The people who are getting doctrinated are educated people. So how do you convince them? They already know their problems, they already know their concerns, and despite knowing the issues of this joining terrorism, they decide to join. So how do you convince them? Next, ideological war online. That is, cyber jihad narratives spread faster than the security countermeasures. Okay, people get influenced by the cyber jihad models rather than the de-doctrinization models. Next, interagency coordination. That is, success of the recent operations prove that there is a need for federal intelligence agency. And add to that, CBRN task force. What is the CBRN? As I told yesterday, chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear task force, which will look after the CBRN terrorism, that is chemical terrorisms. Okay, and then so way forward should be enhanced surveillance. That is, monitor even the professional sectors like machine, medicine, IT for digital radicalization indicators, and also AI-based detection. That is, deploy AI tools for early detection of suspicious online communication and crypto transfers, and then chemical tracking system. Here, introduce GPS-enabled tracking of ammonium nitrate and toxic precursors such as castor oil. Next, community policing. That is, strengthen trust-based networks in migrant and student communities. Next, de-radicalization programs. Launch digital literacy campaigns on identifying online extremist propaganda. Next is legal and institutional reform. That is, update UAPA and cyber terror frameworks for encrypted transnational operations. Very important is this focus on the transnational operations, because if you want to get rid of these terror activities, if you want to get rid of this indoctrination, you have to bring a coordination between different countries where the source is actually present. Okay, so in conclusion, an evolving threat landscape. India is definitely under the threat. So the recent incidents represents India's evolving threat landscape, where terrorism is no longer confined to broad borders or poverty, but increasingly digital and decentralized and intellectual. So the emergence of doctors of death is also societal and ideological battle. It demands a multi-layered, tech-enabled and cooperative national response. Okay, so India has to update itself with respect to these terror activities so that India no longer will be under threat and it can address this terrorism for once and all. With this, I will end the video. Jai Hind, Jai Karnataka.